Yo, what is up guys? Grim here. So today I'm going to introduce you to Windripper. I would easily say this is the king of clear speed right now, top dog. As you can see the footage in the background here, it's going to be quite quick. It's very fast at clearing basically every map in the game, and it's definitely the best build if you're trying to make currency. So today's video is going to be an introduction to Windripper, so when I get to the guide tomorrow, you guys are going to know exactly what's up, and if you're watching that guide tomorrow, then maybe you can come back here and just sort some stuff out. So the topics we're going to go over today is why you're going to choose Windripper over the other builds, how you're going to customize it, because Windripper is a super flexible build. The bow kind of archetype is just, you can do so much with it. So I wanted to go over that and make sure you guys understood how each playstyle works and how you can kind of choose the one which best fits you. Next up, I also want to go about how you can level up a Windripper character and how you can kind of start getting the gear together, because obviously it's the most expensive MF character in the game currently. You can blow 100 to 200 exalts easily on this character and still not be done. So how can you get it to a point to like where it is pretty effective? I'm going to tell you exactly how you can do that and make sure you can get into what kind of like what I've got here going on in the background. Lastly, there's a ton of restrictions to the Windripper build, which you need to solve, almost like problems. It's got a lot of requirements into it, like intellect. The resistance are very hard to cap. You need to get a lot of movement speed and stuff like that. So I'm going to talk about that as well. So let's get into the first topic, which is how does it stack up against the meta? So the easiest thing to compare Windripper to is the Wander, which recently got gutted. Volpower Siphon got wiped out completely, and now it is KB Wander versus Tornado Shot. So basically, Tornado Shot is just a superior KB Wander in almost every single way, shape, and form. Windripper has more Magic Find. I think it also has the ability to have higher single target DPS. It gets 2 6 links instead of one. The only downside it has is that it can't use Escher's Mirror, and honestly, you do not need the damage. Escher's Mirror is overkill on any elemental damage build. So Wanda is just straight up going to lose to Windripper. There's just no contest in my opinion. Even in tightly dense layouts like Haunted Mansion and stuff like Toxic Sewers, Windripper just still crushes the good old Wanda just due to the amount of quant you can wear, and it gets through the rooms and everything just as quickly. You one-shot every room just like KB does. So KB has no like strict advantage over Windripper, so I'm 100% Windripper. If you're going to make a ranged MF character, Windripper is where you're at. So moving on, so Wanda inferior. So when we look at EK Nova, Cosprey Discharge, and Auto Bomber, the three shield charge kind of clear speed builds, these are a little bit different. They perform differently to the running kind of move speed clearers. Obviously KB and Tornado Shot, Windripper both use Queen of the Forest, whereas these three use Shield Charge. So when you're comparing straight up speed down a map like something like Channel, nothing beats Shield Charge. It's purely just the best movement skill in the game. You can go like so fast with Shield Charge. So here's where it gets a little bit interesting. So Windripper, as you can see, is ideal for open layouts. It's very good at getting around and hitting the whole screen and then off the screen some. So I think it probably hits about 1.5 screens with each tornado shot. So you basically one shot 1.5 screens. So EK cannot do that. Cosprey definitely can't do that. And then Autobomber. Autobomber is a little bit of a funny one. It's very slow. I would consider it slow, but it's very, I mean, it's effective at what it does. You have to wait for that herald to tick, 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 tick on each pack, and if they're not in close proximity and the heralds don't chain, you're looking at a slower clear speed by far than anything like EK or Windripper. So it's very much, you lose a lot of control when playing Auto Bomber. You're just waiting for the heralds to do the work. So in terms of comparing that, basically what I'm saying is that maps like Infested Valley and Channel, Atoll, and stuff like that, you're probably looking at Cosprey and EK doing better. I believe that Autobomber is a little bit slower than all of the builds on this list at pretty much everything. However, it's very easy to play. All you have to do is shield charge around. So it's very easy on the hands, and Autobomber can be quite methodical and relaxing to play, I suppose. So in terms of pure straight up clear speed, if you're doing something like Channel, you're definitely wanting to go with Cosprey or something like EK, whereas Windripper is better at stuff like burial chambers and dunes and stuff like that. So that's kind of where it's going to be at. If you've got straight linear maps like Channel, you're looking at Shield Charge build, and then obviously open maps, dunes, burial chambers, kind of anything. If you want something flexible, Windripper is where it is at. And even on maps like Channel and Atoll, I don't think Windripper is that far behind in terms of speed. So I guess that kind of puts Windripper at the top of the pedestal. It does easily the most damage out of all of them. Maybe KB can get up there a little bit with Escher's Mirror. It has the best screen clear of all of them, best running movement speed. So in maps like Toxic Sewers, you're not going to be shield charging into anything because you're running. And it's just a really smooth game, like playstyle overall. So moving on, super customizable. It is insane how much customization you have with a bow character. Like, this is my first serious, like, I'd say 80 to 100 exalt kind of bow character. I haven't ever put this much currency into a bow character, but you can do crazy stuff with this stuff. So to start off with, you can modify how your projectiles operate. So let's say you have three options pretty much. You can go with chain, fork, or pierce, each of which have their own advantages and disadvantages. So the way that I like to play is with pierce. I don't particularly like chain or fork, but I'm going to explain the advantages of them in a second here. So the advantage with pierce is that it hits everything. All the arrows are going to pierce all the way through everything and hit all the way off the screen in most cases, because you're piercing four enemies, and as you can see here on the screen, the amount of arrows you have are just ridiculous. So every arrow, if it's in the line of sight, is going to hit everything, and that's very good. It's very effective, and you're not going to get as much kind of mob pack penetration as you're going to get with Pierce. So Pierce is really good. It also gives you the most single target damage because it has a more multiplier strap to it, which is really fantastic. So more multipliers, obviously OP. So Pierce, best single target, most consistent pack clear. But you do lose out by not going with one of the other options. So Chain and Fork are fairly similar. I would say Chain is better, and but Fork is more accessible. So when going with Fork, you're most likely using the Rigwald's Quiver, which gives you free Fork on all of your attacks. However, that does have some drawbacks because you give up your Quiver slot, which like will tank your life a little bit and stuff like that. But anyway, that's beside the point. Fork is very good because every single one of these arrows on the screen, which you can see here, when they collide with a target, they become two arrows, essentially sending those off again in different directions because of the forking action. So when each of your arrows hits, it's going to fork in a different direction, giving you bigger, kind of more arrows going more places, and it's just really good. So everything's going to be going everywhere. There's going to be arrows all over your screen. You're not going to know what's going on. There's going to just be a lot of arrows. So that is probably the best in terms of arrow quantity, and perhaps it's going to give you the best clear overall for just hitting the most packs off screen. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the way Fork also works is, let's say I shoot a tornado shot like on the screen right now, and it hits a pack off the screen and then forks. I believe those arrows can then keep on going way off the screen, so maybe you can hit even further. However, I haven't played with Fork very much, so I'm not sure if that's exactly how it works, but I think that's how it would work because it spawns a new projectile. So, and then we have the Almighty Chain. So the Almighty Chain is good with Deadeye. Deadeye turns chains into a more multiplier. However, the Chain gem is pretty dog crap. It basically tanks your damage for single target, and that is a problem. So Chain comes with some drawbacks if you can get past the damage thing with GG Jewels or crazy amounts of damage somewhere else. Chain can be good, and the main advantage of Chain is that basically what Chain does is it turns all of your arrows into heat-seeking missiles. So it adds like smart AI almost to the arrows, unlike Fork, which just forks off in a straight direction every single time. So when an arrow chains, it basically hits a target, and then it's going to aim at a new target, and then shoot it off there as well. And then it's like ping pong, depending on how many chains you have. And again, I think that can hit way off screen due to the fact of how projectiles work. So chain can be very good. It requires a lot more investment than Fork does. So Fork's probably your middle ground. Chain's the ultimate kind of clear everything on the map at once kind of thing. Hit everything everywhere, which is pretty good. I think every single tornado shot will probably one-shot a pack somewhere on the screen. Whereas Pierce, you do have to aim a little bit. You need to make sure arrows are hitting from the direct attack at the monsters. So those are kind of your options. I prefer Pierce, more damage, simple, like just hit everything on the screen kind of thing, and it does the job well for me. But play around with all of them. There's not really any penalty. Probably just 10 regrets if you're trying out Chain with the Ascendancy, but yeah, no big deal there. So, moving on to a few other things, we also have the opportunity to play with either point blank or fast shot. So, you're going to get fast shot baseline as being a Deadeye, which is really excellent. It's very noticeable how much more damage you get when you're further away from targets. Um, so, you're going to be noticing that a lot. But all up, point blank is bonkers for damage. So if you're doing a high mapper, so let's say you wanted to do red maps, T15s or something like that, point blank may be the option for you. If you get right up to a boss and just shotgun it with a tornado shot or a barrage with point blank on, you're going to be doing, I think it's 50% more damage on top of your normal damage, which is just berserk. That's just nutty. So, but the sacrifice is though that your clear speed will suffer. So when you shoot a projectile, if you're close, you do 50% more. But if a monster is really far away, you'll do, I believe, it's 50% less. So that off-screen action you can see so well in the background here is going to be penalized a little bit. You're not going to get as much juicy off-screen kills as you normally would. You will notice it. I've tried it out, and obviously the single target is nutso, but yeah, you will notice that you're losing a little bit of like kind of clear speed and effectiveness of your tornado shot off screening. So that's kind of your decision there. And then you also have the decision to either go high tier mapper or max movement speed white map crusher. In this map kind of montage, I am max movement speed. I have all the movement speed points on the tree, but you can notice that my life is fairly low. 4.2k is a bit monka-ass, especially if you're in tier 15 maps and stuff like that and you're doing the bosses. You're going to be a little bit scared of getting one shot by things like Dominus lightning dudes or whatever they are. Stuff like that is a little bit scary. You will be concerned about that. So you kind of have to make the call. Do you take the movement speed nodes or do you take more tanky defensive life nodes? So that's another decision you guys are going to have to come to. I'm going to explain all of my kind of preferences and what I suggest you do, obviously in the full breakdown guide thing, but we're just going off all your decisions here so that that video can be more short and concise. So it's kind of a two-parter here. So moving on, those are your kind of customizable options there. Other stuff, most of the other stuff is pretty baseline. You do have a bit of gear customization, but I'll get to that tomorrow. It's mainly with the helmet, whether you want to use light poachers, star conjures, or devotos, but that's tomorrow with the full gear guide and all that kind of stuff. So you do have quite a lot of options here. You can go single target, you can go max clear, you can go chain, fork, pierce. You can go high mapper or low mapper, kind of just whatever you want to do. It is available to you, and it is going to be very effective no matter what you try out. So moving on, how would you go about kind of starting this character off? Obviously, like, oh my god, 100 exalts, are you kidding me? I don't have 100 exalts, I have 5. Well, I've got some pretty good news and bad news for you. So there is a lot of options to getting started, and you can cut away a lot of the massive expensive items in this build and kind of boil it down to the essence of what it is. So when I made this character, I think that you could probably put it together pretty well on about 10 exalts, and you could easily get away with 5 exalts. However, our good friend Mathel made quite a few tornado shot videos, and that price has slightly hiked up quite a lot because the one essential item that you need is the tornado shot helmet enchant. It takes your tornado shot projectiles from 3 per arrow to 5, which is almost a double in projectiles, which is pretty nuts. So you need to get your hands on that helmet enchant, and then basically the rest of the build just works. You don't even need the Windripper bow. You can just kind of use the Lionized Glare bow until you get enough money. So yeah, that's the kind of problem. You need the helmet enchant. It's the only item you need. Maybe a 5-link or 6-link queen if you can manage it. 5-link queens are pretty damn cheap, or you can throw 100 or so fusings at a queen yourself and just pick one up that way. So yeah, there's a lot of really good ways to start out. If you don't want to be playing a suboptimal Deadeye Windripper character, you can actually go Deadeye EK, which is very cheap to get started. However, you do need something like an Escher's Mirror and a 6-link, but you can use Tabula, so it's pretty flexible. You can check out my EK guide and just swap it over to Deadeye, and that will work fairly nicely for you. So again, the only thing you need is the Helm enchant. We'll get into more details about gear selection and all that stuff. None of the Magic Find gear is mandatory. You can get by it with just the Helmet enchant and maybe some gold worms with 20C for some good rolls and some Sedemas. That'll jack you up to 40% item quantity and you'll be pretty good to go. You can start farming maps with that. So there's a lot of different tiers of the build. Obviously, you've got stuff like Dying Sun, the Leech Gem, the bow, 6-links, 2 6-links. But you don't need all that kind of stuff. That just makes it even better and turns you into a monster like you can see here in the background. Well, we're going to be going into that in more detail tomorrow as well. So what makes Windripper hard to build? So basically, I wanted to go over the strict requirements associated with Windripper when you go full Magic Find and kind of the problems that you're going to have to solve on your personal character when you get to that point. So Windripper ultimately is a full unique build. The only rare item you use is a quiver, which is pretty intense, means resistances are really, really difficult to come by. So there's going to be quite a few restrictions and things which cost probably a lot of exalts to solve. So I'm going to get started. First of all, Ranger has really low life, so you need to make the decision of how much life you want and need. So I've gone with around 4 to 4.2k here, but there's a lot of life nodes available, but you're going to be strapped for points because they're generally pretty far apart, and you want to get things like movement speed, the physical conversion node, so you can run Fizz Reflect and stuff like that. There's just a lot of things you want to do, so you're going to have to make that decision yourself of how much life you need. I've seen people run with 3k, I've seen people run with 6k. So you just need to make the call on what kind of content you're doing at the time. And I'm going to be able to go over that a little bit more on the skill tree tomorrow, but that is a problem you need to solve. So next up, Windripper Bow is actually not as great as you'd think. It has very low damage. The physical damage is abysmal, which I can actually show you in game now that the video's done. The physical damage is not great. It's pretty low, as you can see there, and it has a little bit of elemental damage, but the main thing it's good for is high attack speed, high critical strike chance. So to solve this problem, you're going to need some damn good Abyss Jewels. Let me just find some with flat damage on them. Like one Abyss Jewel actually has more damage pretty much than the Windripper Bow it does have itself. So you need good Abyss Jewels, which you can find for about 10C. That's the first problem you're going to need to solve. And again, with that life thing, obviously, look, there's life down here, life over here, life up here. There's just life everywhere, but you need to decide where you want to go. More life there as well. You do want the flask nodes, lots of stuff to choose from, lots of flexibility, but lots of decisions. Again, you'll have my decisions and what I've come to a conclusion about tomorrow, but it's good to think about these things yourself, so you can kind of tailor the gaming experience to your playstyle. Because if you're running red maps, you certainly don't want to be running what I'm running. This movement speed isn't going to help you if you take 2 minutes to kill the boss. So maybe you want to pick up more damage on the bow nodes here or the damage nodes over here. So again, you kind of need to pick and choose what you want. So moving on, you need high intellect to use the gems as Windripper. So as you can see here, I have 114 exactly intellect, and that is a very specific number. As you can see here, oh well, you can't. Yeah, pretty close here. A level 20 gem for intelligence is 111 intellect, and then when you go up to 21, I believe it's 114 exactly. So you need to make sure you're juggling your intelligence, and that again is going to suck more points out of your passive skill tree. As you can see here, I have a big intellect nodes, and I also had to take this jewel up here using intellect nodes as well, instead of maybe a more good one down here using strength and getting the life over here. So you have to make sacrifices. However, you can use something like a shaped amulet with 30 intelligence on it as well. That would let you drop this node here, and you can kind of bootstrap your way into not needing the intelligence as much. So that's kind of another problem. And then obviously we have the resist problem. As you can see here, I had to take resistance nodes, which is pretty tragic, to have to spend 3 points on just some resist nodes. Pretty devastating, honestly. And I have very good venters as well. As you can see here, all of them have tri-res. So you're going to have to solve that problem for yourself, because I know you guys aren't going to have these 5x venters. It's just not realistic. And you're going to need to solve that problem. So whether that means losing a bit of damage on your Abystrals, dropping maybe your Biscos for, again, a shaped amulet with that intelligence on it, maybe get some resistances on that. Make sure it's got the quantity roll on it though. And we can kind of mess with that kind of stuff. I'm probably going to drop my Biscos anyway for that intelligence amulet as well, just to get those resistances. Yeah, definitely another problem to solve. You can solve it by throwing many exalts at some perfect venters, but again, not realistic, very difficult. So I mean, look at all these problems we have with the build. Very difficult, very fine-tuned. You need to be very specific with what you're choosing, but there is even more. So with the build, you're going to notice that you have pretty good movement speed in general, but you need to get your Queen of the Forest to 100% movement speed benefit. Otherwise, you're not really getting the maximum benefit out of your Queen of the Forest. To do that, you need 45,000 evasion. So sitting in town, as you can see here, I have 27,000. That is not even close to 45,000. I think that's like pretty much half. So you have two ways you can go about this. You can get nodes on the tree, or you can run a Jade Flask here. So when I activate my Jade Flask, you can see here, I'm going to go up to 48,000, which is the cap for Queen of the Forest, which is excellent. So you need to figure out a way that you want to get there. The easiest is using a Jade Flask, but there are other ways. The problem with the Jade Flask, though, is that you won't always have the movement speed on. You have to get the flask activated, and there will be times in maps when you don't have that Jade Flask activated, and you're going to be a little bit slow, and you're not getting the maximum benefit out of having that Queen of the Forest on. So yeah, again, another problem, another way you can get creative with solving it. If you don't like the Jade Flask, you can maybe do something else. So lastly, you're just super tight on points on the tree. So there's lots of things you want. Like ideally, you'd be able to get these duration nodes for Vile Haste, all the life, more jewels down here, more life over here. You'd need the conversion nodes. You'd love to get more attack speed. Like you've got these juicy berserking nodes over here for attack speed, but you're just so tight on points because you need to take stuff like those resistance nodes, the intellect nodes. Like, if you guys come up with ways, like smart ways to kind of solve these problems, you can really juice your Windripper even more and get even more out of it. Like, you can just go berserk with it. You can go insane. So that's what I mean by Windripper being so customizable, so excellent, and so great. So you're probably thinking, well, you didn't tell me how to build it, you didn't go over any skill gem links. Well, this is already like a 20-minute video, so if I tack this onto a 30-minute build guide, we'd be looking at an hour video, and that's just really difficult for me to upload, and a lot of people don't like sitting through that. So we've got this kind of primer introduction. You know all of the stuff about Windripper that you need to know, the decisions you've got, kind of all the things that you can change in the build before you even get to the build. So when we go through the guide tomorrow, you're going to know exactly where you're like, oh, I remember that. Yep, I'm not actually going to go with Pierce. I'm going to go with Chain. So I'm going to change that little bit there, and you'll be able to kind of follow along with me and make adjustments as we go. So we're going to save a lot of time in the build guide tomorrow. We can make it quick, concise, and to the point. So that's going to be the introduction to Windripper. Hopefully you guys have kind of seen the potential here. Maybe it gets you a little bit excited, and you can kind of have a goal to go towards in Bestiary. I got to say, Windripper is super fun to play, and also just the amount of stuff you can do with it. Like, I have so many items I still need to get. I want to get that shaped amulet. I want to get a +1 Windripper bow. I want to get a +1 quiver with movement speed on it, so you can get even more movement speed. I need to get a perfect Watcher's Eye. This one doesn't have 15% move speed, and it's missing the spell dodge and stuff like that. So just tons and tons of items to get. Obviously, the Mighty Headhunter is available. Dying Scent, like all these goals for you guys to work towards. So if you're ever looking for chase items to chase, Windripper is the perfect build to go with. And each item you get is really like impactful. It's chunky. You're gonna feel it when you get that Dying Sun. Feel it when you get that Headhunter on. It's just really good. It's really rewarding to play this character and constantly upgrade it. Highly recommend. Definitely the best clear speed build this patch. Really glad I did it. I will be going this build for the foreseeable future as my league starter unless they nerf it or something cooler comes out, because it is just that fun and rewarding to play. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Look forward to the extreme in-depth build guide Excel spreadsheet Finasco tomorrow, and I'll see you guys then.